What's up,
All
guys?
right.
This is Casey.
And Coach Tom.
This is Shot Science Overtime, number 186.
Man, I just can't believe those numbers are up there so high.
Yeah, they keep going up.
Yeah.
So we want to welcome you guys to our live show. This is not a short tutorial video. If this is not what you're into, you can get out now. You can go check out all of those videos in our library. But right now we're going to have a talk with you guys for an hour or so where we talk about all things basketball. Looks like we got St. John 2 in there saying hey, Injustice Gaming saying hey, Philip Cohn saying hey. What's up, you guys? But what we're going to do is we're going to have our hour-long show. We're going to have a topic that we talk about at the top of the show. While we're doing that, you guys are going to be sending in your questions and comments about basketball stuff. It can be on anything: shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, how to talk to your coach, athletic training, vertical jump, whatever it is. Send it to us, and we will try to answer as many of those questions as we possibly can. But first, we're going to get into our topic, which is something that we think is going to help you guys take your game to the next level, or maybe cut out some of the learning curve that you face when you're trying to develop your basketball skills or becoming a basketball player. Kentaro Skinner, hello, first name, last name. Devin from Toledo, Ohio. Awesome. Great to have you guys here. Please go tell your friends and family to check us out. Make sure you check out everything Shot Science on all the social media that's out there, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, whatever. We're Shot Science on all of it, and different stuff everywhere. Okay, so our topic for today is what to do with your strengths and weaknesses. So first, what do we have to do?
Well, here we are in between seasons, and we're talking about middle of summer or beginning of summer, and basketball season is really not that far away. Basketball is probably, for most people, is going to begin, for high school anyway, is going to begin around November 1st. The colleges get into it a little bit sooner than that. But one of the things that we really talk about is, with players and that sort of thing, is we talk to them about this is the time for you to get better. And, some people do this year round, but oftentimes other people are involved in sports and things like that. And so the summertime is a time for you to really begin to analyze these kinds of things. First of all, what are my strengths as a player?
So you have to identify.
Well, and you have to identify for yourself. If you need help, then you should ask somebody who is familiar with you and your game, and maybe they can help you with some ideas. But you're going to examine what are my strengths as a player? And such things as this. Am I a very good shooter? Okay, I'm an average shooter. So I got to spend time on that so I get better. What kind of ball skills do I have? Well, that's a weakness for me as well, and so I have to spend time on that too.
Yeah, I think it's good to maybe make a list of your
Yeah.
your weaknesses and your strengths,
Right.
and write them out. One of the things that makes you a great basketball player is being able to kind of analyze yourself.
Sure.
And so if you are not able to do that, that's kind of a little bit of a problem, because how do you kind of push yourself to the next level?
Exactly.
It just makes you a robot that's going out there and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get in there and go, okay, I'm a great shooter, but I kind of struggle at attacking the basket. I can play defense, but I keep getting in foul trouble because I'm playing I'm reaching too much or something like that. But if you can start identifying those things and write them down, that's really how you kind of improve on those strengths and you kind of work out the weaknesses.
Yeah. And, the thing that's really important, too, is that most players have some strengths. Maybe it's playing defense. You've got really good feet. Your footwork is really good. You're strong physically, and so you don't get pushed off the mark by an offensive player. Those are things that you can take as strengths. The weaknesses, kind of things that you really need to be involved in, is like we talked about it just a few minutes ago, is ball skills, shooting skills, because that's the essence of basketball, is scoring. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep score. Okay, so the important thing for you to do is analyze what you do and can do successfully, and then analyze those things that you don't do very well, and begin to formulate, like Casey says, a practice plan for yourself.
So
now let me go on for just a second. So many times young players don't have that scope, that vision for themselves as players. And so they go out and they just play in games. They go to the park and they play in pickup games. They go to the gym and maybe there's an open gym for the team members, whatnot. And so you go there and you play, but you don't don't improve that much because
There's no individual skill development.
Right, and individual skill development is really the essence of being a good player. I just was talking this morning with a young guy that came, and he had been to a tournament in Reno last weekend, and it was a fairly big tournament.
Showcase tournament.
It was a showcase tournament, and what I asked him, how did it go? Well, it went pretty good. I said, well, what did you get done? Because I don't know what good means. What did you get done? Did you shoot the ball pretty well? Yeah, coach, I shot the ball a lot better. Anything else that you felt like you did pretty good? Coach, I think I'm better with my ball skills than I have been before. And we work on his ball skills a lot. He's a point guard, two guard. And so there were some realizations for him that this work that he's been doing in preparation and then going to that and other tournaments, he's really beginning to raise the level of his game. And that's what you really should be doing right now, is raising the level of your game.
Yeah, and when we talk about identifying these things, it's great to write it down on paper, but then what do you do? So one of the things I want you guys to do is we do want you to write them down. So how about in the chat, you guys tell us your strengths and your weaknesses, hit them off one by one. We just want to know what you guys kind of evaluate yourself as. Are you a great shooter? Do you struggle a little bit with ball handling? Are you able to play great defense, but you need to work on your footwork? What are those things that you guys have? And maybe mark them with an S for strength or a W for weakness. And just let us know in the chat. That would be good to know. So then after you start identifying those things, what do? You got to work on, accentuating your strengths and then bringing your weaknesses up so that they become strengths.
Exactly.
And so this really informs your practice when you go out there and work on it yourself. Because the players that take it to the next level, that do become the great players, they have a plan when they go to their practice or they work out themselves. The ones that just go and casually shoot around and don't really have any kind of structure to it, those are the people that maybe they get better, but they don't really kind of excel at each next step.
Right.
So you have to really have a great you have to have a great analytical eye, and that informs your plan when you go to do your practice.
And even more than that, you have to be there has to be some reality for you. I oftentimes ask players how they're doing or how they did, and they say good. Well, what does good mean? The word is G-O-O-D, doesn't have any meaning to me, and so I question them. Okay, what about this? Oh, I did a good job there. I was able to get past people and get to the basket. Okay, that's the kind of information that I want to have. How did you play defensive? Well, I played pretty good. I was able to keep the person in front of me most of the time, but they beat me a few times. Well, okay, so you're analyzing what it is that you are doing. And with that analyzation of what you're doing and need to do, that directs you where you need to go in your workout schedule. And the thing that is so interesting to me is that players don't spend time analyzing their game. They don't spend time analyzing what they can do and what they can't do.
Yeah,
and it's not a mystery. And if you can't figure it out, you ask people who know you. Well, who knows you? Well, your coaches know you. And so you could, Coach, I want to have a program for this summer. What do you think I should work on, and how should I do that? They'll be willing to share that with you, help you write it up, and keep you focused on where you're going.
Yeah, and here's the other thing you're talking about too, about being satisfied with being good or whatever. That kind of complacency will not help you either. And take this as kind of an example of that, is that people come in and maybe they've improved their free throw shooting so that they're shooting 80% from the line. So, that's a pretty good percentage for a free throw shot. And so then they just keep it there. And that's really what they maintain, and that's what they kind of address it every once in a while. But that's where they like to float it, is at 80%. For some, for me, I'm thinking, well, there's 20% of improvement that I can still be working on. So I'm going to really emphasize working on something like that too. And that's just the same thing with like basketball or with ball handling, is that, okay, you're able to dribble the ball pretty well. You can do these attack moves. Do you stop there, or do you keep pushing on so that you're advancing yourself? And you have to make yourself a little uncomfortable to advance yourself. So you should always be looking for. It's great to hit those milestones of, wow, I'm now, I started at 60%. Now I'm an 80% free throw shooter. What is my next goal? I'm going to go to 85, and then I'm going to go to 90. And you really do want to push yourself towards that kind of, the 100% mark on anything that you go into. And look, we have Adam Muhammad who's saying his strengths are creating shots, passing, finding teammates when I play a more facilitator role. Weaknesses: being aggressive, driving to the basket, and range. So those are all great.
Those are great analyzations of what you need to work on.
And Alexis Robles says strengths: great defense. I'm tall, finger rolls, fast. Weaknesses: left hand, lefty layups, shooting from any range. Those are good. Okay. Michael, strengths: defense and ball handling, shooting and driving. Weakness: creating contact.
Absolutely.
Those are all good. And hold on, there was one more too. Commander Airborne says, need more power, range in my shot.
Well, we can talk about that later. We'll come to you back. I'll come back to you on that. Now, the next thing that will really help us in this quest that we have to get better in basketball is this: set some goals for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't want to just go out there and be satisfied. Now, Casey was talking about goals here a while ago. I'm shooting free throws, where you shoot X amount of free throws, and then you're not satisfied with that, and then you raise that goal for yourself, and maybe from 55 to 70%. That's where you want to go, and you achieve that goal. That goal will not always stay there. One of the things you have to do is continue to work on those skills so that they stay at a high level. But once you take and establish some of those goals, now you can kind of focus on the areas that you are not as strong in, and build that up so you become a better player.
Yeah, and you want to take bite-sized, achievable goals to progress. Yeah. When people say, I want to, let's say that they're a 55% free throw shooter, and they're like, I want to be a 90% free throw shooter. Yeah. That's a great general goal, but I would say go from 55 to 60,
exactly.
60 to 65. Just set those goals that are a little bit more progressive than just this huge, overwhelming one, because then you don't really get the satisfaction of achieving those milestone goals until you get to that huge one that you've been working towards.
Yeah.
So it's harder to kind of keep dangling the carrot for you to try to reach that big goal.
Exactly right.
And the same thing is true with anything, whether it's footwork or ball handling or whatever. Set those small, achievable goals, and then work towards maybe a grander goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's kind of a scheme to help you kind of in your development during these off-season months. And when you usually, unless you have a job or something that takes a lot of your time, you're able to spend time in the summertime developing these skills and getting better. Now,
well, and it's about being efficient about it too.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that comes into play here with this is what we call the 3 pillars of practice. And the thing that is real important about those 3 pillars is kind of how we approach it. Pillar number 1 is where we learn how to do something. We were working this morning on a spin move for one of our players and struggled with it. And after a while, he began to get it. Now he will be able to work on that on his own.
It's about dialing in the mechanics and getting everything so that it's in the right working order.
Absolutely. And when you do that, then your game is going to start to get going. Now, after you've done that on these different skills, then we like to encourage you to go to pillar number 2. And pillar number 2 is one where we're going to practice all of these things at game speed.
Game intensity, game speed.
What happens too often to young players is they develop these different skills, but they don't work on them at game speed. And that's where you have to really spend some time, because the speed of execution oftentimes will have you twisted in circles here if you don't do that. So you want to take and work at game speed. When you go play a basketball game, you don't play at practice speed. The level of intensity raises significantly, and you have to be able to meet that with your skills to be effective. And so that's important for you to do. And finally, the third pillar in this development program is this: it's time to take it to the court. Yep. And that means that you're going to take and go and play in pickup games. Maybe you're going to go to an open gym at the high school for your team. All these different little competitive games that you can get in.
Game experience.
Yeah, and you have a chance then to exercise some of these things that you've been working on. For example, let's say you have worked on your crossover move, and crossover, you work on it, and then you've worked on it at game speed, and you're feeling really pretty good about it, and you go to a little pickup game, and it won't work. Okay, so what happens is one of two things. Number one, I'm abandoning that. It doesn't work. I can't do that. But rather, we would encourage you to do this. Examine what it is that you're trying to do, and there's probably some little thing that will make it be more effective. One of the things, or two of the things that on a crossover come to my mind right away is, number one, your dribble is too high, okay, and too wide. And the thing that really is going to help is if you get that dribble down, any change of direction dribbles, we really encourage our players to take that ball down to knee level. And that way it's going to get out of the reach of the defender, and we can usually beat him there. So those are little analytical things that you can do to make yourself better. So the three pillars.
Yeah, and the take home of all this, the reason why we want you guys to really kind of start analyzing yourself is that you becoming your own best coach is really the best approach to making you a better player.
Yeah.
So many times people get out there and they just expect other people to influence them and tell them what to do, and you don't really figure it out for yourself. The great players don't do that. You know, like Michael Jordan, he wasn't sitting there waiting for so-and-so coach or Dean Smith or whoever it is to tell him what to do as an individual to grow his skills. Yep. He wasn't, Kobe, same thing. Steph Curry, same thing. These are people that took it on themselves to really be able to look at what they're doing. And when you do that, you can take the steps to make yourself better at these different weaknesses.
Right.
And you can also grow your strength as well. So it's important that you analyze yourself and really get in there, look at what you're doing, and have a plan that is informed by that list of things.
There's another thought that popped into my mind as I was listening to Casey, and this is the thought, is that you have to take and make sure that you are developing good usable skills. Sometimes we want to take and be a great crossover person, and we don't know exactly how to make that more effective. You can go to our channel. You can talk to coaches, and like Casey said, they can help you develop those skills. Don't just ignore them because they don't work for you in the beginning, because it is a process of learning how to do those that makes you better.
Okay, so I think that's good for that topic. Make sure that you guys really become analytical and look at your development yourself. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to get into the next part of our show where you guys have been sending us questions, and we're going to try to answer as many of those as we can. So keep sending those questions about anything basketball related, shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, how to talk to your coach, athletic training, vertical jump, whatever it is, send those to us, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Before we get to that, make sure you guys follow us on all social media stuff, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. We are Shot Science on all those. And we do different stuff, different places, and we love to have you guys there. Make sure you guys check out shotscience.com. If you guys want to get some Shot Science gear, like the shirts, we have different stuff available there. We also have training gear, so like the vertical jump box, which is a vertical jump training kit. We have other kind of training pieces of things that you can get together there, training gear at shotscience.com. We also have Shot Science All Access, where we have kind of very in-depth training stuff that goes even beyond the stuff we do on YouTube. So make sure you guys check that out. We'd really appreciate it, and let us know what you think. And if you guys get Shot Science gear, make sure you use the hashtag Team Shot Science. And we see all those, and we like to feature people that wear our stuff and use our gear. So please check that out. Okay, so while we're doing that, you guys also need to answer our question of the week. Before we get into your questions, we have a question for you guys.
Yeah, and that question is one that we pose every week, and that is, where are you from in the world?
Yeah, we want to know where you guys are from.
Yeah.
We're here in Santa Cruz, California, which is south of San Francisco on the coast. We want to know, are you from Japan? Are you from Zaire? Are you from Canada? Are you from
Lithuania? Okay.
So
we throw that out every week, but it's not a joke necessarily, even though we chuckle about it. Mostly it's just kind of funny because we throw that in every week.
It's a big basketball community
huge,
in Lithuania.
huge, yeah.
So we want to know where you guys are from. It's really cool to know that you guys are all out there across the world. We have Football Challenge 21 from Oklahoma. We got Philip Cohen from Germany. We have Brandon 7 from London. Zachary Griffith from Florida. Bob the Sponge Kappa from Greece. John Spinks is asking how to create contact. We will get back into that one.
Yeah.
Commander Airborne is from Minnesota. St. John 2.
Cameroon.
Is that from Cameroon?
Yep.
That's cool. LaPointe, North Korea. Just kidding, Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think North Korea is watching the show, unfortunately. Cool, but guys, keep sending in where you guys are from. We really appreciate it. First name, last name, Ohio. And
right.
lots of like regular people too that we see all the time. Kobe Bryant, 24
Kobe's
from
with us
California.
today, huh? All right.
Cool. So keep sending those in. We'll hit a few more of you guys back, but we're going to get into answering some of these questions here. Let's see. St. John 2 says, what type of mentality should you play and practice with a team? Pass first player or a player that your team can really, rely on?
Okay.
What type of mentality?
Well, the coach of
Yeah.
the team typically will set the mental kind of course for the team through practices. He will make it very clear about, usually he'll make it very clear, or she will make it very clear about what they want you to do and why. And one of the things that's sometimes, I think, not put out there enough by coaches is the why part of we're doing this. Just that we're going to take and run this motion, and for example, the point guard is going to throw the ball to the right wing. He's going to screen opposite for the wing to come up to the point. Meanwhile, there's a double screen down in the low post, and maybe we've got all that going. But players oftentimes are not understanding what are you supposed to do with it. There usually is an end result that you're looking to get. One of those things might be there's a really good shooter that we're trying to get open for a shot. He usually will identify, or she will identify, what the course of that is.
Well, I think part of it too is that you're trying to do too much here where you're trying to direct the show. You shouldn't do that. You should just get out there and play. And if your coach has notes on what you should do, they'll tell you that.
They will.
One of the mistakes I think people do is that they think that they should be a pass first player or player you can rely on. Hopefully you're a teammate that they can rely on, period. I mean, that's kind of not something that I would say you should even question. Pass first is, I think that's a horrible approach for any basketball player, no matter what. Of course you play under the construct of what the coach puts together, but you should never just go into it with that approach. That's something that you'll get the approach from the coach. Pass first is not a good thing. Yep. You should do opportunity first. Is your opportunity good? Did you create an opportunity? Is your teammate creating an opportunity? That's kind of the best approach.
Yeah. Another
thing is to consider, be a player that is always moving without the basketball.
That's
the biggest one.
That just doesn't get stressed enough. And perfect examples of that kind of movement are when you watch San Antonio, or you watch the Warriors, and there's several other teams. There's just constant movement of players, which means there's constant defensive movements that have to take place. And they've got a lot of screen schemes that they use where players are moving and back cutting and all that kind of stuff. And that creates real difficulty for the defense when you play well without the basketball. We've mentioned this several times. In the course of a high school basketball game, probably a position that gets the ball in their hands most often is the point guard. And oftentimes in the course of a full game, they maybe have the basketball in their hand for 5 or 6 minutes. Let's say it's 6. And out of the 32 minutes, half of that is going to be for Team A and half for Team B. It isn't always that equal, but for what we're saying, let's do that. So that leaves 10 minutes to share among the other 4 positions, okay? And so in the course of that time, you might have the ball less than 2 minutes during the course of a basketball game. And what you can do then is by movement, you can create more opportunities, maybe where you do get more touches during the course.
Well, I mean, just even consider the fact that if you stand there and you're moving, like who's giving the defense an easier time?
Oh yeah, the defense is really in a good situation.
You should make life hard on your opponents. And people are always asking, well, should I be talking trash? Should I be pushing them around? Well, you don't need to do any of that crap.
Yeah,
If
move.
if you're moving, that makes life really hard on them.
Exactly.
Because they have to constantly be adjusting, constantly being aware of where you are. And, that's where they make mistakes. And if you're just standing there, it's pretty hard for a defense to make a mistake because all they have to do is just be where you are.
Be there, yeah.
So
and oftentimes we have players who will take and pass the ball, and they'll stand there and wait for it to come back to them. We have a very quick little discussion on how that is not to be the case. You pass that ball and you move, and when you're on the offside, you're constantly moving, screening, cutting, so that keeps the defense really busy.
Yeah, so don't have an approach of pass first.
Yeah.
And when I see that, it makes me cringe immediately. You really shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Look for opportunities. Take opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay, Denvi Star, our buddy from Moscow, says, hello, coaches. What's going on? I think it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen you around.
Yeah.
Football Challenge 21 says, how can I improve my shot very quickly? You got to put in the work.
Yeah, and don't expect you're going to do it real quickly. When we start with a new student, and we start from ground zero and build it from the ground up, so to speak, we figure that the first session is going to be about 30 or 50% of it's just going to be us demonstrating, talking, okay, this is what you've got to do and why. Then after that, we take and spend time on the shooting machine, helping them get those mechanics pulled together. Usually when they are about 45 minutes into the lesson, they're starting to kind of get it. And that's when it starts to take some shape. And so nothing comes easy. And when we start with somebody like that, we usually figure it's going to be about 3 to 4 weeks for them to develop an effective shot. Only if they spend time most every day in what we call our form shooting drill. That's how you get better. And it's not fast, but it's effective.
Looks like we have, no, I'm going to butcher this name, but
okay.
Dairi Kennelly from Ireland.
All right.
That's cool. Thanks for being here. Spread the word in Ireland.
All right.
I don't think basketball is super big in Ireland, but it would be cool if maybe you.
Maybe we should go there and do some clinics in Ireland to whip the thing up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. This one is from Zachary Griffith, who says, "How do I shoot over people when they are taller?" And then there's a couple of people that are telling him, like B Moritter says, you should shoot over. You shoot over a player who is taller than you. You're taking stupid shots. Yeah. Well, it's not stupid. It's just not a good shot.
That's not the best way maybe to phrase it, but let's go back and think about that for just a second. If you have shots that are getting blocked, you're not open for the shot.
Yeah, it's not a good shot.
That's simple, and so it's not a good shot. And so what you need to do is learn how to create space, and there's a number of ways to do that. When you create the space for the shot, then they have to play you more honestly. And one of the things that we use as a guideline is if we have a defensive player who is really crowding us and getting right up into our space, our call on it is they crowd, you go. And what we mean by that is you attack to the basket right now. And you don't have to necessarily go all the way to the basket. Maybe you get there and give it to somebody else, but you immediately put that defensive player in a bad position. And what it does is now you beat them a time or two, and now they're going to back off of you and give you more space because they want to be able to react to your drive. That's when you're going to create a little more space. Learning how to use leverage is another way to do that. We'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will tell you, oh, you need to, shoot faster, or you need to get more arc. That is not really the advice we would give anybody because those have inherent problems themselves. But we would say learn how to create space. Yep. Get those offensive tools that you can use to, maneuver by that person or get that person off balance or in the air or whatever. And then you'll start taking shots that are not contested, which, the percentage on a non-contested shot compared to a contested shot it's drastic.
Yeah.
It's about 50% halved off when you get a contested shot up there.
Right. One of the other things that we talk about too with our students is that in order to create space, you have to first close space.
Yeah.
And by closing space means that you close that distance between you. And now you're able to step back, you're able to drive by them. And so what we want to do is close space to create space for that shot.
Okay, here's one from John Spinks who says how to create contact.
Okay.
I think part of it is you have to have the mental switch
Yeah.
where you are able to say, I'm good with contact.
Yeah.
So many people are like, touch me nots when they start playing basketball because they're worried about getting foul called. They're worried about, is it going to hurt or is it going to be something where I get knocked off balance or whatever. That's stuff you kind of have to just get out of your mind, get over it, and understand that basketball is a contact sport.
Yeah.
And I think the second part of that is that you have to learn how to manipulate the defender into getting off balance, to getting in the air, and then using kind of the opportunities that creates to create contact.
Right. One of the types of contact that we teach and spend a lot of time on is what we call leverage. And this usually is as a result of a drive to the basket where we have a defender who is crowding in on us, and they'll crowd in on us and they'll give us this little right here with the elbow and forearm trying to kind of move you away from the basket. And so we do the same thing. We want to get our shoulder and forearm into them as well. And as we go to the basket, we are not allowing them to push us out. We're working to push them in toward the center line or the midline of the court. That way we get closer to the basket.
Yeah, you got to hold your ground. A lot of times people don't do that.
Well, and like you pointed out a while ago, a lot of people don't like contact, and so they'll get away from that. And what happens is if I'm going to the basket and I begin to fade outwards, the shot gets longer and longer, and usually it's an off-balance shot. But what we really like is that we've got that forearm that we're using for leverage as we move closer to the basket, and then just as we're ready to go, we'll just take and give just a little light push, and what you'll see, you saw Casey move away, and yet my arm doesn't come away from my body. All I've done is just nudge him a little bit, and that creates space for me to get that shot off.
And if you're subtle about it, the benefit of the doubt goes to the offensive player.
Yeah.
That's almost always the case.
Yeah.
If you throw elbows or you swing or you do any of that stuff, or drop your shoulder, that almost always is called as an offensive foul.
Or if your arm comes away from your body and you're pushing.
And, when it comes to getting the other person in the air on a shot fake, you give them a shot fake, tiny little movement of your hands. You wait for them to get up in the air for about a count, and then you just create enough contact with them to make it obvious that they created contact. You don't just, try to just smash into them, and you want to make it so that you create enough contact so you get the call, but you also have the opportunity to make the basket too.
Yeah.
So that you create enough contact and then focus on the finish.
Those of you who are watching the finals right now, and probably most of you are, what you're going to find out is that as you watch guys like Kyrie Irving.
Oh, yeah. He does that all the time.
He uses that little leverage all the time. He'll take you and get you into the basket, and then he'll give you that little bump while he leans away and puts the ball in the hole. Curry does the same kind of thing. Most really NBA level guards do that really well.
Well, if you watch Kyrie Irving, there's a reason why, somebody that's basically 6 feet tall can get in there and maneuver with those big guys. And it's because he's doing things like that, where he's getting them off balance and creating contact. But, he has kind of that all figured out. He knows the tools that takes. So just it's about creating these subtle contacts and using the space that's created. Okay. This is from Bulldogs. When the ball is in the shot pocket, should you have your arm in a C formation then, or wait until you raise it to your set position?
Well,
shot pocket is your set point.
It is, and the ball comes up into this position to shoot it, and I don't know if you're talking about the C, we call that the L position, and we want the elbow to always be in the L position as you're ready to shoot it, all right? And then we go from there to get the elevation that we want. One of the things that we have a problem with a lot of our players is they want to, as they have the L position, as they get ready to shoot it, they pull it back here into what we call the V position. The V position is going to cause the shot to be a flat shot. And so we always like to have them in the L, and from the L, they elevate.
Yeah, because you're trying to, that's what, you're trying to eliminate extraneous movements. And when you have it in like a V, oh, geez, this is hard to do.
It is.
You have it in a V, you have all these moving points. Like your elbow's going to extend, then your shoulder's going to extend. But if you have it in the L, then it's really mostly about extending up through your shoulder, and your elbow will extend with it. Okay, let's see here. Let's find another one. Football Challenge 21 asks, do you have any videos on the vertical jump? Yes, we
Yes,
have
we do.
multiple videos on the vertical jump.
we do.
If you go to our library, you can just search for vertical jump in the Shot Science library. I think even if you do like a search on just generally in YouTube, just type in vertical jump, Shot Science or something like that, we should come up right away.
Jump up there, yeah.
If you want to get like a really in-depth, in a more updated version of that, we have that on our website at shotscience.com in the all access area. And we have a very broken down demonstration, drills. You can also get the vertical jump box, which has all the vertical jump training gear in it that we think is super important, like the foam roller, the jump rope, the resistance bands, and stuff like that. That's really kind of the stuff that we would suggest. Let's see. Adam Muhammad is asking how to play against people who defend at a middle distance. I've seen you use that term before. So that's kind of people that there's three kind of approaches to playing defense where people can play really up on you. In that case, that's where you want to just attack the basket and go. Mm-hmm. Or people play really far off of you, and that's where they're going to just that's where you should just shoot over the top of them because they're not defending your shot. And then the middle distance is the one where they're kind of hedging their bets in the middle. That's one that's a little bit more difficult, and you have to have more tools in your toolbox to be able to figure out. And so that's one that you have to run some tests. Yeah. So something like the jab step is really good. Yep. So if you give them a jab step and they don't react, then you go and you just extend that step and you keep going to the basket. If you give them a jab step and they step back, you step back and take a shot. Or you take a step back, then they recover again, then you take another step and you attack the basket. The jab step is really important. I think the shot fake is really important.
Yeah. And the rip and go is really an effective tool against that.
Yeah. So that's one of those. The middle distance is a little bit more more hazy, but you can run these little quick tests and figure out what to do. Colby's saying, thank you guys so much. You guys have helped me improve so much. Awesome.
Right,
I'd love
cool.
to hear that.
That is very cool.
Let's see. Scott Sloop says, I just joined. Are you guys answering questions now? Yeah.
Yeah, we are. We are. Post your questions so we can answer it for you.
Kobe Bryant 24 says, I always make most of my shots in warm-ups, but when the game starts, I can't make any jump shots. What can I do to help me out?
Okay, there's several situations that kind of come into play here. Number one, when you're in your warm-ups, you're not executing at game speed. That's one of the biggest issues. And so when you are in the warm-up period, there should be a period of where you're in kind of a slower mode, and then as you go along, you want to take and get into execution at full speed, at game speed, or what you think is game speed. That way, when you're in the game and everything is operating at a higher level of speed, that you can adapt to it really quickly. One of the other things on jump shots, and jump shots are kind of interesting too, because you can tell a lot about what the problem is with your jump shot by what the ball does. If you are late in releasing the ball, in other words, you've reached the top of your jump and you're starting to settle back to the floor and you release the ball at that particular moment, it's going to be underpowered because the only muscle or the only power source that you have is your upper body. When you jump for a jump shot, your legs get to the highest point that the hips and legs are going to go, and then the power disappears, and all you got left is your upper body. So when you're late, usually your shot is going to be short and it's going to be flat. Okay, so the remedy for that is this. As you, and this takes practice, as you shoot the jump shot, as you're reaching the top of your jump, the ball needs to be on its way. As you reach the top, it's on its way. That way what you do is you catch the leg power on that thrust and it's transferred to the ball at the right time.
The biggest key to all of your question, though, is that you need to address the second pillar of practice.
Yeah, that's
You have to practice at game speed and at game intensity.
Yeah.
If you're just casually shooting around and then you step out on the court, that doesn't work out. That's like going from your bedroom to the Staples Center. That does not work very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? So
hope that helps.
Yeah. And we have a video on that. What do we call it? Making practice, missing games?
Yes, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Check that one out. Yeah. Adam Muhammad says, how can I improve my left hand moves, layups? No matter how much I practice, I can never shake off that awkward feeling when using my left hand, especially if I don't practice for a few days. Well, consistency is one of the problems, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is. You know, one of the things that is kind of interesting about offhand layups is that it's hard for us to get the footwork just right. Then it's hard for us to get the lift with our weak hand properly. Sometimes that arm's out. Sometimes we don't extend fully.
People rush it too
Yeah.
much. They don't take the time to really put the pieces together.
Right. Well, and Casey's got it right there. When we teach somebody how to shoot a layup, whether it's weak hand or strong hand, and they're not very good at it, we don't use any kind of a dribble. And we start with just one step and up. And that, like if I'm on the left side, I'm going to have the ball over here on my hip. And I'm going to step with my right foot, bring that knee up, and I'm going to shoot the ball with the left hand. When you start having the dribble involved in what you're doing, what happens is that oftentimes you're so much concerned about the dribble, the feet, the stroke, and we have really great success with that. In the course of a practice or a 1 hour practice where we maybe spend 10 minutes on free throws or layups, what we find out is that we're able to get that going really well. And we can go to either side. After we've shot with one step, then we'll move it back and we'll go like this. We'll go left, right, up. And then we'll move back and we'll go right, left, right, up. And with no dribble involved. And then what we'll do after we've kind of got a little bit of a feeling for that, then we'll add one dribble. It's amazing.
You just have to put the pieces together slowly. Yeah. People, a lot of times, they either, they have their right hand layups where they're like, wow, this is super easy, I can do this. And then they try to do their left and they try to force their body to do what their strong side can do. That is not a good approach because you're trying to train yourself without putting the pieces in place.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you got to remember that it's just the mere image too. So many people think there's tricks and all that stuff. It is not. It's just you need to put the work in, and it's going to take a little bit more effort than it did on your other side because it's not the side that is your strong side. It's not innervated as well as the other side. So it's going to feel awkward. The other part that you mentioned here is that you're not as consistent. You can't work on your left-handed layups on Monday and then expect them to be there on Saturday when you haven't put the work in for them to be there throughout the week.
Exactly.
Spend a few minutes every day just working on it and slowly work up to it.
That formula right there works so well because I will tell you right now, if you take the 1-step, 2-step, 3-step approach, and you work on that for maybe one practice, and you do it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Within a week, you're shooting those left hands like you've done it for your whole life.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is that you gotta let your frustration fuel your motivation.
Yeah.
Don't let it get you down. And another thing too to try out is try stuff like the mic and drill. The mic and drill will really help you kind of get some footwork down and also get you into using your offhand a little bit as well.
Yep,
and you'll get a lot of repetitions and coordination out of a drill like that. Yep. So that's another video we have on the mic and drill. Yeah. But I think we have videos on how to develop your weak hand for ball handling, if you go check that one out. And we also have, I think, a layup 101 video, and we kind of talk about how to approach that stuff. Yeah. So just keep working on it. That's the real thing. Yep. Work on it consistently. Brandon Seven says how to be more confident on the court.
More confident.
Yeah. Confidence comes from, confidence in the execution of your skills. If you can execute your skills, you're going to be confident on the court because you'll know that they're going to be there. If you're not confident in your skills, yeah, I would be freaked out too,
Well, and then there's another part of that too, and how do you become confident? You work on those skills and work on them so that you trust them.
Three pillars of practice.
Yeah, and then after you trust them, then it's time to take it to the court, and then you will find out, oh boy, that was so easy, and your confidence will grow as a result of you're spending time working on better execution.
Yeah. Consider the player that goes out on the court and they spend their time shooting half court, trick shots. They do some, 3-point shots casually.
Little knockout.
Yeah, little knockout, maybe a couple free throws. Compare that to the person that spends time doing game speed, game intensity, shooting off the dribble, shooting off the pass, executing compound moves with, an attack and then a counter attack. Yeah. The player that plays against a defender or visualizes playing against a defender. The second player is going to be way more prepared and confident to step out on the court than the player that didn't do that kind of work and just kind of casually approaches their practice.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll help you a little bit. Let's see. Scott Sloop says, how can I be more aggressive, especially on defense, when I'm the smallest guy on the floor?
The size of your body doesn't have anything to do with your playing.
One of the things that we say every time somebody brings up their height is, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
That is basically the one thing that you have no control over.
Well, and one of the things that we all forget is that you might be a smaller person, but maybe you're much quicker than the other guy. And so you use your quickness and speed to direct them where you want them to go.
This is another opportunity to analyze and evaluate yourself. Yeah. So many people get so fixated on the disadvantages of things. Yeah. Make a list of what smaller, shorter players have advantages and disadvantages of. Yeah. The advantages are going to be a lot of things. Yeah. You're going to be quicker, you're more agile, you're probably going to be faster, more explosive. You're going to be able to go in places that those other guys probably can't go. There's so many things that you can do. And then you can use kind of players' biases against them too. Yeah. So these tall guys, they think that they're going to block every one of your shots no matter what. Yeah. Use that against them. Give them one shot fake, they're up in the air, and you're gone. Yeah. I mean, that works every time. I can guarantee you, because those guys think that they're going to just block you every time. Use that against them. The short players that make it to the NBA, like Muggsy Bogues, Spud Webb, who are some other guys? Nate Robinson. Yeah. These are not guys that sit there and just, woe is me, feel sorry for themselves. They get out there and they're like, I'm going to take these guys on. Yeah. I've got all these other attributes that they don't have, and they make it happen. That's what you should do. Yeah. So what was the question? I think we got off on a tangent there. Let's see, Scott Sloop, right? How can I be more aggressive, especially on defense when I'm the smallest guy? Aggression and kind of playing more intensely, that is kind of a mental thing that you have to do. Yeah. You have to have that switch in your mind, like, okay, I'm not going to be worried about contact. I'm not going to be worried about that guy beating me. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to play aggressively. Yeah. You have to just do it. And you have to take risk. So many people are worried about failing that they won't take the risk, but no risk, no reward.
Well, that's very true. And not worrying about contact either. That's a real important part of it, because defense is about contact.
Yeah, so Scott, get out there.
Get after it, Scott.
Let's see here. Scott also says, this is kind of related to the whole consistency thing. I practice in a routine every single day, and I'm still not as good as the guys who practice 1 to 2 times a week. Is there something I have to change?
Well, you sit down and analyze what it is that you do and see if that follows the 3 pillars of practice that we've talked about. If you're practicing every day and you're having an effective practice, that's the other thing. Sometimes we think that we're doing things that are worthwhile in a worthwhile manner, and we're not. And so you have to really kind of get into, is this going to be effective? And if you don't know, ask somebody, hey coach, check this out, and then go ahead and execute a move, and he will say, yeah, well, that's not bad, but instead of your dribble going north and south, you're going east and west. That's why you're not getting any place. And that analysis maybe helps you get a little edge. Now, there is this truth that is involved too. You may never catch up with these other people. That just is the truth. Maybe you are not very athletic or not athletic enough to compete with them on their level, but there's nothing wrong with that, because when you play basketball, athleticism just is up and down. Some players are super athletic, others moderately athletic, and some who are real plodders, but they can still be effective players.
Here's the thing too, is that, like you said, there's going to be different variations on athleticism, whatever. That's, again, not something you can't control the athleticism or abilities of anybody else. So for me, when you're talking about worrying about these other guys, I say forget about that and focus on developing yourself as a player. And I can guarantee you that if you work on your consistency on, making free throws, or your consistency in being an effective offensive player, that you will probably be able to go further than these guys that, maybe they're consistent now, but if you put the work in and you're doing more work, you're going to be more consistent than they are.
And it needs to be the right thing that you're working on. That's the important thing.
And, you know, it will always happen where, you know, there's going to be people that are more gifted athletically or whatever, you know, and they'll make it to the NBA just basically off of their athleticism.
Yep.
And then, you know, there's guys that I've played against that are from like the Midwest and like Iowa or Indiana that they are way better basketball players than any of those other athletic guys that would go on to the NBA, but they will never get to the NBA because their body type or their athleticism or their life goals just aren't made for that, you know? But these are guys that, you know, it makes me laugh so hard when we hear these other kind of basketball guru-y people that are saying the best basketball players or the best shooters are in the NBA. If you play in any of these tournaments in the Midwest or anywhere kind of across the country, you will see players that literally shoot way better than any of the people in the NBA. Yeah. Like the greatest players I've seen in like shooters, they are not on TV every day.
Yeah, right.
You know, I would say get out and watch more basketball from these people that are from like Ohio or Indiana or Iowa. You know?
And there's another place where you find them too. Get into Division II, Division III basketball, NAIA basketball. And one of the things that is a kind of a trait of most of those lower levels of basketball instead of D1 is that the guys aren't quite as big, but they can shoot it. They can shoot it.
Yeah. So stop comparing yourself. Yeah. I think it's self-defeating to do that. Okay. Chessmate says, hey, I'm from Hungary and I want to put left-handed floaters / runners into my game, but it's not going too well. Any tips? Thanks.
You know.
Why?
Yeah, that's my question. I read that a while ago and thought to myself, what reason would you want to have a left hand if you're right-handed? Use the right hand. That is your strong hand.
When it comes to making left-handed shots, anything outside of 3 feet, 4 feet from the basket, it makes no sense. Yeah. Because you reach a point of diminishing returns when you are trying to. Why would I work on being ambidextrous with my shot from mid-range when I'll be mediocre at both? When I can focus on being great with one side, and then I can focus on that being a great shooter with that one side, and then focus on also creating space to take open shots.
Yeah, well, there's another element that comes into play here as well. How many floaters you're going to shoot a game? Well, maybe you shoot 2. Okay, maybe. Okay. And maybe once in a while 3. So there are 3 opportunities to shoot when you are actually probably going to take maybe 8 or 10 shots out and away from the basket, mid-range to 3. And those are the ones you want to spend some time on it. Maybe get yourself a little floater with your right hand. And if you're coming from the left, use the right. If you're coming from the right, use the right.
And floaters fall into the category of not high percentage shots.
Yeah, they're not high percentage shots.
They're lower percentage shots. You know,
they take a ton of touch.
When we talk about what's a good shots are uncontested. They are on balance. They are not moving shots.
Yep.
Bad shots, or shots that are kind of getting into the bad category, are ones that are off balance, are moving, are altered in the sense that you have to add more arc or you have to change your regular shot to make them. So things like runners and floaters, fadeaways, double clutch, all of those things kind of fall into the category of lower percentage shots.
Yeah, they do, and probably you don't get that many opportunities to shoot them, even if you were really good at it.
And if you are, that probably means that you're not creating good space, creating good opportunities. And we're not discounting floaters or runners, but when people ask us how do I develop this part of my game, it doesn't really get us super excited. Rohan, who says shout out from India. Awesome.
All right, India. That's cool.
And Edwin GR says hi from Colombia.
All right, hola.
Nick Melendez says, how important is footwork?
Oh. Nick, in every game that you play on your feet, footwork is probably the most important part of the game. You take a look at soccer, which is a footwork game, and just the incredible footwork those people use to be able to manipulate the ball around the floor, pass to other players, kick on the goal. And so footwork is essential. In basketball, in our instruction, we spend time on execution of shooting skills, and then we add the footwork that goes with those shooting skills to be able to be effective. And so the thing that's really important for you to remember is that, like I said, everything, swimming doesn't really account much there, but games where we are playing on our feet, footwork is the key, probably more important maybe than other skills.
Yeah, look at players like Hakeem Olajuwon or Tim Duncan. These are people that had superior footwork, and maybe they weren't necessarily more athletic or bigger or stronger, but if you're putting Hakeem Olajuwon up against Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem is he's gonna just take over because he's so much more able to manipulate what the other person is doing. You can get better leverage. You can execute quicker. There's so many things that good footwork really helps you with.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important.
When it comes to shooting, footwork will make your shot faster and more efficient.
It will.
Okay. Mika says, would you say it's just as important that you hit or that you say your jump shot is... Hold on. You're asking basically if your jump shot should look pretty or if it's ugly and works. Is that okay?
Hey, the thing that really counts is that you put it in the basket. It may not be a beautiful thing, but if you're consistent. I once, when I was coaching high school basketball many years ago, I had a player who had the ugliest shot ever, but he made the baskets. And so we never attempted to change what he was doing.
If you're starting from the ground up, though, you want to have the most efficient kind of shot that eliminates all of the things that don't need to be there. And, so many times we see people that they have these hitches or dips or whatever. All of that stuff lends to a more complex shot, which makes it harder to repeat. And when you can't repeat it consistently, your accuracy is going to drop off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So work on having an efficient shot. And if it's not working for you, then you can refurbish it. But, it's not about how pretty it is. It's just efficiency.
Efficiency, effectiveness is the key.
Okay, Rohan says, basketball being dependent on muscle memory, I struggle with shooting after a workout that focuses on my arms. Any tips to get my shooting touch back? Yeah, if you go and work out your upper body, your arms, or any part of your body, and then go and try and shoot, it's going to be a rough go because you've fatigued your body. Yeah. So, when I was playing basketball and working out, I would say that I would always do basketball practice first, basketball training first, and then go to the gym. Because if you're doing, some intense upper body thing, and then you go and you try to shoot, you're not going to be able to effectively do that.
Yeah.
And then when you go...
Very tense.
Well, no, not even tense. It's just fatigued. You're not going to have the ability to shoot like you would. And then, then you go and you practice the next day or you play a game the next day and you practiced being fatigued. So it's not going to translate as well. So don't do that is what I would say. Okay. So that's going to do it for us today, you guys. If we didn't get your questions, it's not because we don't like you. It's just because we ran out of time. Make sure you guys answer our 2 questions. Our first question is, where are you guys from in the world? We want to know where you guys are from because that makes us very excited. Yeah. And our second question is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Yeah. And those things that you need to work on. So let us know in the chat all of those things. Make sure you guys follow us on all our social media stuff. We are Shot Science everywhere. Make sure you go to shotscience.com and you can get some Shot Science gear. You can sign up for the Shot Science All Access membership. And make sure you hashtag all of your Shot Science gear and shirt stuff with hashtag Team Shot Science because we want to see that stuff. And we really appreciate you guys being here. And we'll see you next time, right?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.